Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Sheldon, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. It's been a rough last really like few days, probably like a week and a half. WizKids Open, all that jazz, plus real life stuff equals one tired out Edward Sheldon. That's pretty much what's been going on here. WizKids Open. I know some people ask, like, what did I play? I played Orange Lantern Power Battery with Engineer, Nick Fury, level 7 ID card with Nick Fury on the side, Ultron 6 drone, and the Brimstone at 20 points with Colossal Retaliation. The team is really straightforward in how it plays, and you just I forgot my constructs: decoy construct, nurse construct, and crossbow. So it's like I said, it's really straightforward how it plays out. You pretty much just pick a power off an engineer and just be like, hey, you don't have that. If they have a defensive power that's an issue, you use Nick Fury. And you let it ride. So engineer is very flexible and can take on most things. And pretty much I made top 8, lost in top 8 because I failed to make flexible decision making in the moment, and it cost me the game. So that's it. Let's just go ahead and get into today's show. I'm going to go over some meta stuff in general and about what's sort of coming down the pipe and what we need to be aware of, as a player base. And also just some other sort of mindset shifts that I've encountered here recently. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I know that everybody ended up talking about is the triple Mystique tech. I encountered it myself and lost to it because I didn't know that freaking pulse wave gets past it. I think that this is going to be a threat, but not like the super major threat. I think the super major threat is the Trinity War Lex Luthor, now that people understand what you can do with it. Combining Mystique with Trinity War Lex Luthor with a bunch of ID cards, or Trinity War Lex Luthor with, whatever else with ID cards, you now have this character running around at 200 points, summoning in, whatever he wants, and then being like, that you just took a crap ton of damage to the face because I summoned in a 200-point monster. And good luck with that, buddy. I think that is a way bigger concern than Mystique force blasting people into a wall. While Mystique's effectiveness is nice, it is very limited. It requires a lot of different setups. First off, it requires that you're going against a team in which you're able to force blast. 2, that you're able to outwit. And number 3, that they do not have pulse wave. If they have any of that, you're royally screwed. So the Mystique stuff is a little fragile once everything is said and done. I think where the really sort of the rub lies is, how does a person now take Mystique and then apply her into other teams, which I think is going to be a lot more, just deadly. All things considered, Atomica all of a sudden becomes a little bit, more risky to play. Just like, I just, get up on top of you. And if I get past that combat reflexes, which I do believe she does have up front, it's like, we're gonna light you up. Going to light you up so hard with this force blast. Or just, in general, just small characters that you're able to just go up on and be like, hey, force blast, homie. I knock you into a wall again, and then again, and one more time. And oh, never mind, Atomica doesn't have combat reflexes, so yeah, just spam her into the wall or off a building. That also works as well. So I think that sort of bit of tech is going to be interesting, but I also think the other element that we have to really be mindful of is, hey, guys, you can't run triple mystique and beat a zombie team base. Like, you really can't. And if you think it through, you can figure out like why. But I can just tell you, like, the biggest thing is that the damage output isn't there, and the zombie team base has tricks that it can do to just be like, no. Also, you have Super Scroll, which allows you to do single target pulse waves, which, in all honesty, is way stronger than people care to admit or believe. So those are some really interesting issues, definitely going forward once retirement hits, and the impact of retirement. I'm just like, yeah, wow. That's really going to hurt that triple mystique team, because you're only going to have two entities or possessors that you're going to have access to, which is going to be Eclipso and Brainiac. So there's that. The other bit of tech that I think was very interesting indeed was the Quinjet tech. The Quinjet tech, I think people are still trying to reassess what they can and cannot do with it. Quinjet coming in with two Ultron drones, and you're just like, yep, every turn until I'm able to summon in, perma, whoever it is, I'm going to be dropping ID cards, and I'm going to be wrecking house, and you better be on your A game, or be able to score all these guys that I'm popping out. And if not, I don't care. If they're going to go away, they're going to tie you up. They're going to take shots. Oh, I got a permanent Nick Fury sitting in the back now. 4 or 5 points. Yay. Stuff like that. I think that all of a sudden raises our awareness of how sort of BS the meta is, right now. But mainly when we start asking ourselves a couple of quick questions. Quick question number one, and I'm not taking shots at Patrick when I say this, is like, quick question number one, is the Quinjet ability to summon in permanent figures too strong going forward? If so, why? If not, and it's balanced, should there be a limitation on how many ID cards that the Quinjet can use its effects on? And so that's something that, just pops up. The other thing that we can start asking ourselves is, really truthfully, when we are looking at the round table, what type of round table constructs are we looking at? And in all honesty, and this is just my opinion, I do believe that Easton Brock set us up with a good foundational thinking of the round table, in which he stated that, we have the power table or we have the stat table. We're either going for stats or we're going for powers. And that I do agree. Those are two very solid paradigms for looking at the round table. But when we take it that step further, there's a couple other paradigms that show up that I think we can start asking ourselves realistically, are these viable tactics? Are these ideas that we need to, have in place as well? One of which I'm a huge supporter of is the summoning table. If you have a limited amount of figures and you have characters of decent points, summoning table is super strong. Definitely if you can get a character that's 200 points. Just being able to say, like, I have I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh, homie. I'm dropping cards. It's time to do duel, and just be like, Nightwing, I summon you. The reworking of the round table, or really the ID card characters rules, that their beginning of turn is when they're summoned in, makes the Rick Jones ID card way stronger. And any character that has an ID card that has the ability to pop off a guy for free now adds to that Aragon Ghost Army tech that's just been developing in the meta. And I I I have to look at that as a very solid tactic. I mean, why am I concerned about a stat table when I'm able to run the uh, Nightwing ID card, pop out prize support Nightwing, have him charge Flurry, with 11 attack, 3 damage, have him squat out Tony Zuko. Now I have Perplex, up defense on my main guy, or have Tony Zuko squatted out ahead of time, then Perplex up Nightwing's attack or damage. Now he's either a 12-3 or 11-4 for his charge Flurry. Have him, drop bows on people, and then they have to go try to kill Nightwing. Oh, they failed. He goes poof at the next turn. There you go. And I've lost 5 points, but I've dropped, 6 to, 8 damage on you. Okay. And now I have, the little Tony Zuko baby left behind. The rapture happened and took Nightwing, and, Tony Zuko's soul wasn't saved. So, there you go. It's sort of that easy. And so the summoning table, I do believe, is the new meta, just as much as stat table and power table. And the summon table, and the thing about summon table that gets me is the utility of summon table is even more flexible than power and stat table. And in spite of not guaranteeing to get, something awesome every turn, when you start looking at the characters that are going to be summoned in, you're going to say, like, oh yeah, I'm still going to get some pretty useful stuff in the meantime. So you're not narrowing your scope. There's also what I like to call 3 table. Okay. Now, let me clarify. So you have on the round table number 1 power, which allows you to, randomly get a card assigned to the character that you pick. Once you get to power 2 on the round table in the teleporter, you are able to have a buff for your entire team, which is really good. So your whole entire team is able to get the card buff inspiration that you pick, but you can't pick the same one, 2 turns in a row. All right, so now, when you're looking at 2 table, you're still under the same effects of stat table and power table, okay? 3 is different. If you're able to get to 3, you can summon in characters with a power action, and they're no longer an ID character. They're a permanent character. If they take any damage, they're gone. They go poof, and they can't ignore pushing damage. All right, so you can't push them. Though, they act every other turn, but you can summon in guys with some major muscle once you get to 3 table. The reason why no one talks about 3 table is that 3 table right now is incredibly hard. It's really easier for you to do the equivalency of 3 table with the Quinjet. Yeah, it's just easier to do it with the Quinjet. So what you're actually looking at is most people saying, like, hey, I'd rather be in a situation where I am able to get characters out quickly and build up this army versus buffing. And then you're looking at the Quinjet. And if you're looking at buffing, you're primarily looking at the round table and the teleporter. Now, if we sort of, sashay back and look at how the meta is going to develop, people that are going to be heavily into quick summoning are going to be looking at the Quinjet. But those people that have an in-game burnout scenario, they're going to be looking at the round table. Now, I know some people might say, hey, Dark Logos, why am I going to put in all this energy so that I can get up to 3 at the end and have all these stipulations and stuff just to have these like huge monsters at the end game? Well, the fact that you can drop, depending on how your table is built, an additional 400 points on the field, that's huge. That as long as you have an ant on the field, you can summon in a 200 point figure. You have a Dr. Demonicus Paw. You have a Red Wing flying around to save the day. You have hope, and that is scary. Whereas with the Quinjet, all I need to do is just blow up your Quinjet. I get all your cards. So there's a liability there. Okay, it's slow and steady for a guaranteed in-game reward if you're able to work it versus just full-off rush. Now, both strategies are valid, but we really have to look at it and ask ourselves, like, realistically, what are players going to gravitate to? And then I'm going to say players gravitate to what is easy, and so, bam, there you go. They're going to go towards the Quinjet more so than the Round Table, thus making the Quinjet a lot more expensive on the secondary market if you do not have one, just because how the meta is going to shift. All right, another thing I sort of noticed is that we did see, we saw mainly Nick Fury on the ID card. We already sort of knew that was going to come in because Pocket Nick Fury, you really just need Pocket Nick Fury. You don't necessarily need Nick Fury every turn shutting stuff off, but Pocket Nick Fury is great. The other thing that we have also noticed is the Sharon Carter ID card. A level 7 ID card used to summon in Sharon Carter. And Sharon Carter, that is some good stuff. Just being able to pick a power and just saying, hey, this power, you can't use it if you're within 3 squares of me. And that gives you a lot of flexibility to do some silly stuff with. Now, where I feel that the whole Sharon Carter tech is probably going to start to fall off is people's access to multiple level 7 ID cards, number one. Number two, I think that the liability of Sharon Carter dying is a huge risk for that team. So with one of my opponents, he summoned in Sharon Carter, had Sharon Carter shut off some stuff, did damage, then ran Sharon Carter away. Now, that's not a problem, for most teams. Just being able to say, hey, I got you, I'm going to put down Sharon Carter and, I'm going to turn this stuff off and, hey, I'm going to keep her here. But the other sort of trend that I saw from the WizKids Open results is just the pure amount of just big attackers. Just they're out there. So I did sort of say I wonder, can this stand up? We also saw the last sort of hurrah of Kyle Rayner. We saw a couple of Kyle Rayner teams and some, silliness. There's really nothing new there going forward. Neither with the New Mutants team base, because again, you're playing summon table type stuff with that New Mutants team base. You're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! You're summoning huge ID cards to do crap ton of damage stuff. So there's that. And let's just sort of look on. I like the Warren Jens. He brought back his Spiral team, but that we're not really going to move forward with that. Super Scroll, it's going to be interesting because the only possessors that he has is Eclipso and Brainiac, and both of those characters are going to give him stuff, but he's not as beast mode as he was before, with Ion or Ophidian or even Parallax. So definitely, I think the Super Scroll tech, I think most people running Super Scroll tech right now that are going into next month are going to say like, all right, what can I do with Super Scroll with what's left? What do I need to eat first? What type of stuff do I need to be aware of? And I think a majority of them are starting to say like, okay, I don't have a Green Lantern power battery, but I have to be afraid of this Black Panther. So how am I going to solve for Black Panther? Once the Super Scroll player solves for Black Panther, then their team is really good. And you have a whole new set of problems that you have to deal with once you solve for Black Panther. But, you know, that's just something that I've been thinking about overall. Uh, it's a rough go, believe it or not. It's a real rough go because if you fail with a Super Scroll team, if you fail to account for how much everyone's calculated for that figure, just considering all the publicity that you've received from the zombie team base tech coming out and just being like, this is broken, blah, 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 blah. There is a problem. You know, you have to have all your ducks in a row because you have to run a very calculated team. And I think, you know, some people are up for it and there's some people that are just, they're really not. And that's going to be frustrating going forward for the people that aren't ready for it. They're like, well, I got it, and you know, I put in all this work, and now it just lost. And it's like, yeah, it lost, but you know, you have to put in like a ton of work on that sucker, and that's what sucks. Just sort of going on just a bit. I gotta say that Mary Marvel being in the meta and winning a major event is great because it shows that, you know, she has longevity. The problem is that majority of the elements that are used to make her better are going to be gone. And so you're starting to ask yourself, is she worth the investment? And I say she is, but at the same time, I think that the concerns that I have in my mind are, is her mobility and burst damage good enough to survive some of the fights that are coming? And I truthfully don't know. I don't think it's good enough to deal with a zombie team-based scenario, but at the same time, it comes down to how the zombie team-based player is playing. And this is the one thing that I think that is going to come back and bite people in the butt. The zombie team base sets up a situation where pop-offs are optional, but also the pop-offs are not permanent. Let me sort of unpack that. You can play with zombie team base multiple ways. You can play very aggressive, very defensive, very slow, very fast, very even tempo. However you play it, it doesn't matter. Where it all sort of comes down to is, if you face something with burst damage, you just tell the burst player, okay, do whatever you want. I'm going to have Super Scroll back here. So this now they have a problem because they have to say like, okay, either I'm dealing with Super Scroll Magneto back here and trying to rock the team base, or I'm going to go and try to kill Magneto. And once I do, Super Scroll is going to come in, you know, tag me really hard, and then the zombie team base is going to double tap me and pretty much kill me. Okay, so now you have this conundrum. You know, you can throw your big player out there and try to have them score points, but you're going to lose, or you're banking on getting, you know, your impervious roll or whatever else. Now, here's the other thing. Let's just say that the big attacker goes for the zombie team base itself. Doesn't go for Super Scroll, doesn't go for Magneto. Tags it, does a good ton of damage. Let's just say it does 8 damage. Wow. Awesome. All that's going to happen is there's going to be a follow-up with Magneto. And now Super Scroll has the option of picking support and using support. So going to go ahead, use support. heal up the zombie team base, let's just say 2 clicks. Okay. Roll. Zombie Super Scroll doesn't take any damage at the end of the turn from scroll power. And now you're going to have to hypersonic speed, pick up another heavy or ultra heavy or whatever else, and come back in again. Now you come back in this next time. Oh, what happens if I'm on Cannibalize? Well, I just, popped off Gladiator because he's not that useful. And I don't take any damage. Now you have 2 tokens, Big Attacker, and Zombie Super Scroll can run up, running shot, pulse wave, hit you, and then Magneto can go out there, sidestep, sachet, psychic blast. You're probably dead, and if not, the team base can finish you off with whatever limited damage it has. So I don't believe that Mary Marvel is the main option, because again, even if that team base, even if Mary Marvel comes in, smacks a team base or whatever, it's just like, oh yeah, now I decide to pop off guys. Now I have Magneto on Pulse Wave. So I just do that. Now I can have Super Scroll pick Pulse Wave. Yay. So there, like I said, things aren't clean with Mary Marvel. Against the average team makeup, I just think is fine. I think you're going to have a really good game. But against somebody that has access to means, it won't work. Like it just doesn't work out. Now the other scary man that's been walking in the background, that's getting more and more attraction, has been Iceman. Now Iceman's power sets him up so that he can use sidestep and do his jank, and just like free attack all the time. It's like, oh, you go out there, just move. It can only get stupider with Arcade, and then you have Arcade on Arcade's Arena and Justin Zephyr, so that you can move Iceman out as a free action, and he makes a move action, runs over somebody, then makes a ranged attack afterward. But he's able to do the ice attack thing, on that during that turn, locking them down, and then the following turn he just sort of like sachets back over and does it again. Or you can get him a Sin from Pandora's Box or Rock of Eternity. He can just sidestep over you because it says when he moves, not when given a move action, which is key. So sidestep is a free action that allows you to move 2 squares, whereas a move action, is an action in which you just pretty much move. And the fact that Iceman's power is not limited to a move action means that anytime that he moves, not placed, but moved, he can do his shenanigans. And he can combine any number of his shenanigans and just be annoying as heck. Now, where Iceman still has a consistent problem is that he does not have willpower. And without the ability to get access to cheapo willpower or however, his ability is a little bit more limited. At the same time, because Iceman is at a okay price point, there's other things that you can also build into your team to compensate. Now, where I'm looking at in the future is that Iceman is probably one of the few figures now, after I've looked at this last round of tech, that could possibly be the most annoying figure in the meta. And we might as well just call it, Infinite Winter. Because once you are able to sidestep and then attack for free, you never have to token. That does mean that he is locking down one character, which also means that one-man armies have to be a lot more concerned about him. But he can easily just, running shot, end cap, 2 other guys and just be like, meh, whatever. As long as I lock down this figure, I'm good. So Iceman is a concern. Is he, threat level, Omega Red 5? No, not yet. And I really do want to emphasize that not yet. The main reason is that he can still be bursted. Even with an entity, he can still be bursted down. The other thing that comes in is that no matter what type of stat or power table or summon table or whatever you have, he he's going to be a target that's easier to take down. Okay. At the same time, if he's on a team that sets up for tempo control, he can do better. But I don't believe that he is going to be in a situation where that he's able just to provide permanent lockdown on anything that he wants just because he's Iceman. Where I am concerned about is like multi-base figures, sort of like a team base or any of the peanut bases. That all he has to do is just sidestep over one of those squares, and then he's like, "Yep, I'll just lock this down. Yep, I get to attack you for free. Boom, now you have the ice block token. Yep, there you go. Just stay there. Stay there, buddy. Don't do anything. Don't blink. Just stay right there." And he can do that. He can make characters stay there. And that's the part that I find very intriguing with the tech development is that they made Pandora's box worth it. They just have. Just being able to take that power action, power action assign the sin, and then, hey, free TK out Iceman. Now he sidesteps over, and boom, now I get a free attack, even though I took a power action this turn. So I think that's a good beginning. I think it's a real good beginning. I think the problem is reach, and that's really it. Is reach. Is how are you able to constantly get this to go off? And then the other problem I think that's eventually going to show up is what happens if Iceman misses? And that to me is the sort of the next big thought process, as my brain clears through the haze, is that let's, even with props or whatever, let's say you have to hit 3 times. One is your initial attack, then it's your opponent's prob, and then your prob. Okay, so you have 3 attacks, and you have his attack value on an 18 or a 19. Can he hold up? And I don't know. Like and I know some people will say it's like, but you're Dark Logos, the almighty wizard of heroclix land. You should know. Like, no, man, I don't know. I'm no different than the Wizard of Oz at this stage. I have a nice little projection. I have an Emerald City. I protect some people. Heck, I got a horse of a different color. But, you asked me to go take on the Wicked Witch of the West. I don't know if I got that quite yet. So those are realities that we're facing, is that there's some unsurety. Now you want to say like, well, Dark Logos, he has 11 attack. Yeah, but you're also talking about 11 on a 19, 11 on a 20 are some of the defense values that we realistically can see. Is it as easy? No, but we can still see 11 on a 19. Okay, and you also have to ask, sort of point out too, is that as sins are going to be becoming more common and 17-18 defense is a bigger deal, the sins giving combat reflexes means that, yeah, you're going to see 19s and 20s. So you gotta think about that. So anyway, I like the fact that you start doing sidestep and icy fate allows for some dumb level lockup, like really dumb level lockup. I think that it would be interesting that it allows you to sort of chip at people. The only issue that I'm also sort of thinking in the back of my head is, All right, how do you increase that damage output? And I just don't know yet. And I know some people say, well, you just perplex it, Dark Logos. But you start to see that for every scenario that I'm bringing up with Iceman as an issue, the solution or what you need to increase his probability of success also increases, the points that you have to add into your build. So I do like this, that like the Derek Thompson, a great player, he was one of the members on Team Worlds that won last year. He played he had Nighthawk Prime and Ant-Man with his Iceman, and he had Manifold ID card and Pandora's Box. And I sort of found that interesting because it would allow your Iceman's mobility to go up like really huge. Because I think Manifold gives you +3 movement, which is a big deal. I unfortunately don't have a Manifold ID card because at the time I had no use for him, and he's probably like $40 right now if you can find one. So anyway, it's some thought processes that are going down just in general. All right, let's just go ahead and keep on going. Krang. So many Krangs. That's going to be like my new like catchphrase. Like I'm going to add it into Kamehameha Wave, Broke Strong, what is it? Hammer to the Face. And what's another one? Oh, I'm hella biased. I'm up to 4. There's probably another couple that I've used over the years. But yeah, just Krang. So many Krangs. Krang, Baxter Stockman, Justin Zephyr, Ultron Drone, Pandora's Box, Sloth Sin, Lust Sin, Wrath Sin. Now, here's where I'm sort of sitting back. And I asked myself a couple of things. Number one, could this team be better? And my answer is yes, if you just had one ID card. My next question comes in is, did you need Baxter Stockman? And part of me says yes, but then the other part of me is really like, no, you don't need Baxter Stockman. Baxter Stockman is nice, but not in particularly for Krang. And I know some people say, Dark Logos, you on that stuff. Don't you know that Baxter Stockman gives Krang +1 attack and +1 movement? And then don't you know that Baxter Stockman also heals Krang? And I'm like, yeah, I know that. But considering how this is built, it doesn't make sense why the Ultron drone is there. Like, there's no reason the Ultron drone has to be there. So there's some efficiency issues that I have with this build. But we're still seeing some of those same concepts. Okay, I have Sloth Sin, so I can heal Krang and also give him +1 defense. So he potentially is +3 defense on whatever click he's on if I go Colossal, which means that if my opponent tries to get on me minus Pulse Wave, they're most likely going to have to deal with 21 or a 20 defense. Hello, Iceman. How are you going to solve for this? I mean this for real. Hello, Iceman. How are you going to solve for this? Now, I know, again, some great players will be like, yep, I do this and I do that, and there's your Iceman build that solves for Krang. And it's like, great. That's fine. But you're not able to play a majority of the other field, of the rest of the field. The rest of the field is going to stomp that Iceman team. So, again, like, I see some of this, and what goes through my brain is, wow, this is good stuff. Let's tweak this. Going forward, Krang and Justin are going to be peanut butter and jelly. Okay, Is Baxter Stockman necessary? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, depending on what you're trying to do. But those three right there puts you at 240. You have 60 points left. What can you do? You have 60 points left. What else can you do? And I do believe you could do a lot. I just think that I just think that the Ultron drone is not that useful in this situation. If you were going to use an Ultron drone, then you need to try to do something else. Okay. So just keep on rolling down. Here we go. And this is where when I was saying like, hey, watch what people are going to be doing to make the, use Mystique real well. And this is it. You got Deadman, you got Mystique. Now you don't have to run like Arcade or what's this Ultra Chase, White Rabbit or whoever else to hide in the corner. Now you just have Mystique be like, yeah, you just can't target me unless you have Pulse Wave. And so you run Deadman, you can run your whole Deadman, Resurrection Man, Jank, then Mystique, chilling on there, and then just run some stuff. And then be like, hey, that's it, we're done. I think that's going to be like the next evolution of that whole entire Deadman, Resurrection Man, Jank. I really don't like it, but it is what it is. The Mystiques are able to summon in, ID cards, or Deadman's able to summon in ID cards, and, let them go to town. You just poison people with the Red Lantern battery, but that's going to fade away. So, oh gosh, Matt Devine won. Haha, Yondu. Agreed. Okay. Anyway, I'm just sort of pointing out, just in general, as the tech is progressing, and we're going into nationals and nationals and world championships. I think the overall frustration I think people are going to have post the first round of retirement is going to be, all right, I'm adapting to not having as many stat bumps. I'm adapting to not having as many powers to access in my options pool. What's next? And I really think that folks are going to start looking at sub 100 point characters and then being like, yep, Proteus. I also think that people are going to start making some other decisions, such as, all right, all these swarm teams are out. None of these characters can take a bunch of hits. If I'm dealing with a 5-figure squad, can I run 2 figures that can burst down, 2 of my opponent's figures, and then try to wait out the retaliation? And then after I take that retaliation, I try to find a way of using ID summons to either delay my opponent or to use that as my win condition. And so we're looking at the potential of full out burnout tech. So that there is also legitimate as well with the burnout tech coming back. Well, let me rephrase it. Not coming back, coming into existence. I've tried burnout tech once, and it was hilarious, but it's never been a meta thing. All right, so that's mostly it. I've really started to ask myself, what's next? And trying to be in front of the wave instead of, on the wave or underneath the wave is a lot more difficult and requires a lot more energy, because usually if you're surfing and as the wave is cresting, you can ride the inner part of that wave, but it's lifting you up. But the action and the power is mainly coming from the wave. But when you're looking at someone trying to be ahead of the wave, all their power is exerted from themselves. They're not being generated by the natural current. They're like, screw this, time to run. And so being ahead of the wave means that you're not lifted by it, but also it means that you don't have any natural momentum going forward until it all crashes. And when it all crashes, then you're propelled a bit forward, mainly because most people, they're looking at other sources for their momentum. And so now you're ahead of them because, hey, guess what? The wave crashed. And so that sort of leads me to sort of my second part of today's show, was just some things that I pulled away from the WizKids Open in a player's mindset scheme. And, you know, for those people that don't like the, you know, what's in your head portions of the show, you know, hey, thank you for listening. You know, email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. And, you know, yeah, see you next week. But here's what ended up going on for me. The thing that I noticed at my WizKids Open was that the player base was not a rock player base. Even at some of the, I'll be nice. When I look at who all was there, I did see one Juggernaut member, but he only was there because of circumstances, not because he, you know, specifically was trying to attend the one I was going to. When I look at the player base, the majority of the player base that was at the WizKids Open was not rock caliber. Some of them were hyper casual, and some of them, I would really be honest, were probably just there for battle royales. And so one of the challenges that I saw as people were like literally falling to the left and the right of me was endurance. I think a lot of players don't have endurance. We went 5 rounds at my venue because that's what WizKids said that we were supposed to do. I know other places didn't go 5 rounds. And that's a problem with WizKids. It really is. But when I look at the type of players that I was engaging with, a majority of them I really felt didn't belong there, because it's like it's an open event for everybody to have fun. But I don't think they really counted the cost of getting what they wanted. They didn't know how hard it was going to be to get to the end and be that winner. Okay. And so when I looked at some of the teams and how they were designed and how they were built, the other thing that made me sort of recognize in our general area, we had people from, I think, Kansas, Nebraska, Arkansas, somewhere else. When I sort of use that as sort of like a dipstick of the skill level of those around me in a general radius, I gotta say it's sort of low. And then you might say, but Dark Logos, you lost. And I'm like, yes, I did. And I'll sort of get to that in a bit. But a lot of folks don't really want to sort of like fight it out. They'll be like, well, I have 2 losses. Things went really bad for me. So I'm going to drop now and do battle royales. Okay. What this did is completely foobar the pairings. Like, people end up playing them, you know, in preliminaries, playing other players twice due to the fact that the WizKids event system is completely full on inept. Now, if some of those people that were 2-0, I'm sorry, not 2-0, had 2 losses, kept playing, they had the potential of moving on. And I do emphasize potential, because in our tournament, there were no undefeateds. And not only that, in the end, I think a couple of people that had 2 losses advanced to top 8 because of so many drops. And the point difference between the people that were left at the end of the tournament for getting into top 8 versus people that dropped, one of the guys I traveled with almost got in the top 8, but he was short by like 5 to 10 points, and he had 2 losses. He played the whole tournament, and so I give him props. But that just lets me know a lot of people are, they don't have what it takes. They see like, oh, I can get con leaves. Oh, I can get chases. Oh, I can get that. I'm just going to have, Yu-Gi-Oh luck. And that's going to allow me to beat all the, all the Joey Wheelers that are out there and all the Yugi-Motos that are out there. And because I have the heart of the cards and I'm going to beat all the My Valentines and I'm going to be great. Like, no, you're going to get schooled. And if you're listening to this show, you're most likely not one of the people that I'm talking about. You're more of seeing that in your player base. The next thing that I had noticed for myself is in the midst of a situation, not having mental flexibility. I'm a person that spends a lot of time breaking down like what I'm going to do, with this, and this. I'm going to do this thing, then I'm going to do that thing, and then, I have this other thing that I'm going to do. And so when faced with something, I know personally when I was faced with a situation where 3 of my characters are tied up, and literally all I had to do was say, Engineer picks TK and Perplex. Engineer TK's Nick Fury. Boom. Nick Fury takes away this. Boom. Other Nick Fury takes away that. Nick Fury 1, shoot. Nick Fury 2, shoot. Super Skrull's dead. Game. Okay? Stuff like that. It seems simple. It seems very simple. But when you're in the moment, sometimes some things that are quite obvious can escape you because you don't practice for them, or that they weren't loaded into your subconscious properly, or that you're not flexible enough to actively problem solve. And what I have sort of seen in our community a bit is the ability to rationalize and think freely is becoming less and less. Even when I look at, there were some teams that were there, it was like, yeah, you're original. Yeah, you worked on it. There are some teams that I looked at, I'm like, you net decked. And then you're sort of asking, why isn't everybody running this when you clearly net decked? And, fortunately that guy didn't win, but the fact that not being flexible enough to come up with creative ideas or even new ideas, that the people end up literally flowing like water, not in the Bruce Lee sense, but in the water will always go downhill through the path of least resistance and form a groove. As it erodes things away, it reinforces its path. Okay, regardless what the initial factors were that made the water go that way, no matter what surface, no matter what situation, no matter what incline, water will find its easiest path. And there could be other forces that causes the water to go one way or the other. Wind, another could be like how high the water fell, and then the impact. How far much was the water molecules dispersed upon impact? Do they collide with other water molecules to reform another droplet? All these different things, like a duck walk by, will reinforce how that water gets to wherever it's trying to get downhill due to gravity. And the player base is like that. And you can say that's it for every game, and I understand that. And in Magic and in Versus and other games, it's a lot more in baked, because you got the math heads like immediately like blah 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 this blah 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 that. Done. Here you go. Here's your deck. This is the decks you can use. These are the cards you can use. You can't use any of this other stuff. But I really do think that in heroclix we do have a little bit more flexibility than that, and because of dice randomness, it does allow for some things that may not have initially been functionable to be more functionable, just due to circumstances and creativity. But where I sort of looked at some of the teams and some of the stuff that's built, a lot of it was just like, yeah. I was told that this was good, or I'm not going to really fully invest in trying to make something different. And there are some people that did, and there's some people that were like, yeah, I really just want to play this, and I'm not faulting those people. It's like, I just really want to play this. And like, go ahead, play what you want to play. But when you look at some people that are being creative, or sorry, not creative, looking at people that are like, yeah, I'm just going to win, and I'm just going to go play this because this is what I've been told is to play. That was frustrating, because it limits your development. Another thing I've noticed and encountering is this fear of growth. And I encountered it firsthand myself and ended up having to try to coach through it. There's this fear of the unknown, and that is natural. That's what humans are. But there's also a fear of having to be the man, being the winner, being the star all the dang time. And it's soul killing. Really is. It's an unnecessary pressure that I wouldn't say men put on themselves, because women put it on themselves in a primarily different format. But we definitely, men end up doing to themselves directly. And the part that I saw come out was very particular. There were very particular instances. One instance was, a guy who is a good player, whose reality is completely built upon just not necessarily doing his best, not necessarily presenting his best, but sort of pseudo living vicariously through everybody else around him, and sort of holding over his head. Holding over other people's heads the fact that he taught them the game, or he was, there for this. He constantly kept people in a series of favors, so that he always had a debt to call in. And I saw how detrimental that can be, to constantly sort of hold that up. I also saw situations where people couldn't let go of past victories and felt like they constantly had to live up to past victories. And if they didn't, then, hey, there's problems here, there's inadequacies here, then, everybody will look bad on me. And then really, it's not that. Majority of the time, people are still like, yeah, it was a tough fight. I can't sleep against that guy. I'm glad to got the win. But people don't usually see that. I know for myself, there was a moment as, the winner, Devin, listened to this show, so shout out to him. And then he brought a couple other people, and one of them I ended up playing and losing to, was a Super Scroll player. And for a moment, when I was introduced to them in brief, I was like, well, crap. This is what I get for teaching people stuff. And again, it's a toxic little subtle evil. Very subtle evil that creeps in and wrecks a person. Just wrecks. And so those are some things that stood out to me. And some things that even within myself, I'm like, okay, course correction. You gotta check your heart here, Edward. What's going on? And at no point in time, definitely after Devin won the event, I wasn't angry at Devin for winning. Actually, I was sort of happy, like, yay, a listener won. But I was more thinking, like, dang it, I really need that bid for my team. And, I'm going to Origins, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And it wasn't until later that I was just like, dude, appreciate the fact that this cat may not be your direct student that you talk to every week, personally, and spend time with him and invest figures in. But this is a guy that you've played with. This is a guy that has come down to your venue. This is a guy that listens to your show. Be happy that you are part of this guy's moment of victory. And you don't know. This may be, one of the best moments of his heroclix career, or not. But you're a part of that. And so it's easy to get petty and selfish and small-minded and not just be happy for people, from jump, and letting some things go. And I know, just looking at like WizKid's schedule, like I fought hard, the previous weekend as best as I could, mainly because I needed that bid internationals, because the bid internationals means that I had a 1 in 4 chance of getting into the world's finals for singles versus a 5% chance, or at best an 8% chance. And that's frustrating, but that's also WizKid's doing. And so I can't project or even link my frustration with WizKids onto somebody else due to my inability to sort of capture what was there. So I know it's like some people are like, well, dang it, this was not the conversation I was looking for. But really, I noticed that people drain themselves so hard trying to be an image of what people believe that individual is versus accepting who they are and who they want to be, and understand that those two images don't always line up, and just sort of just rolling through. And it's interesting. It's real interesting. Like at the end of the tournament day, like I'm fine. I'm not drained, heart racing a couple of times, but I'm fine. And I'm seeing people are like, man, like I need to go like to sleep, like I'm, exhausted and blah blah blah. And I understand that, but I also I also realize when I go in and I forfeit the freaking, the pressure of being quote unquote dark logos and just be Edward Shelton and play, and forfeit the, some of the pressures of I got to win because of my team. And if I don't, my team won't listen to me and they won't follow me. And then they'll think that I'm a joke because, I'm telling them to do all this stuff and not doing it myself. All these, little micro deaths that go on, when you just let it go, then, things become a lot easier. The pressure is a lot lighter, you know. There was there was a little thing from Dune, and I'm going to wrap it up. And it's Dune, the movie, not the book, because the books are freaking ridiculous. Like, good luck getting through the books. Like, I think there's like 5 or like 5. I don't know. They're huge. I think there's like 3 or 4 books. But there's a thing that's said in Dune, and it's a mantra, and it's something that like I ended up looking at several times, and I think it applies best for the end of the show. And it goes like this. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. And for me personally, I don't remember all of it because when I was in college is when I saw like the Doom remastered. So the guy that plays Professor X now was originally in Children of Doom, but that's a whole different story. Uh, but one thing that I remember constantly since undergrad was fear is the mind killer, is the little death. I will let it pass through me. And if I could leave you with anything about being a better player, it's this. Fear is the mind killer. I will face my fear, and I will let it pass through me. All right, that's it for today's show. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. You can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me that the emotional entities that have gripped our hearts and our walls for so long shall be freed to the public once more at economic prices. And you can definitely find out when the new shows are up through Twitter. It's a lot easier that way because I know if you get the emails through subscription, and I do want you to subscribe because it helps me promote the show. But if you follow the Twitter, it shows you like instantly the moment the show's up versus the emails. Google waits until you get like a certain batch of shows that have updated, and then it sends you an email. I know this because I'm like subscribed to like 60 different channels, and I get like one email a day. So just letting you know. So you can purchase a shirt for me, from me, not for me, in the link below this lovely video, if you so wish to support the show. And if you want to donate, you can find the link below. Also, I forgot. Let me announce the winners of the contest that we had. And the contest is, of course, for the awesome maps. And I got to get the email rocking and rolling here. So we have 4 winners, and I'm going to send this email to Wes here in a little bit. First off is Justin Sly. He ends up writing, and he says, one thing I like about his little statement is maps are setting an environment. It's like a play on stage. If the production team puts forth great effort on their design, it brings the audience into the setting and the action. So definitely like that. So Justin, you're going to get a map. Hank Wrigley writes, I like maps that promote 2v2 or free-for-all play on this end. So he just kept it short. James Manos, Lord Cardinal, homie, is another winner. Special maps are awesome because it can make the game more fun for both players. And then last one is McLaurin215, Andrew McLaurin. He just likes maps with outdoor and hindering terrain so that he can run and shot and then go stealth. And he likes the Gettysburg map. So all 4 of you will be getting a map. Yay. I'm going to be sending it to Wes here in just a bit. So Mr. Wes Summers, and yay, you're going to have a map. I think that's it. Yeah, long show. Sorry. Thanks for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.